For my regular YouTube audience, you know what you need to do next to get to the information that you want from this video. But for those who are new to my channel, here are some key points to help you work best with the information in this video. Number 1. Timestamps and other important information can be found in the description to this video. Number 2. The dates of the energies that are unfolding in the week ahead are in the introduction section of this video. Number 3. The degrees of current planet placements and their location in signs are also in the introduction section of this video. Number 4. I'm a personal astrologer giving a general astrology reading in this video. For some people it will resonate. For others, it will not this week due to the influence of planets in your own personal horoscope. It may vary from week to week how much my forecast will resonate with you. If you would like a reading with me to explore your own chart further, the link is also in the description for this video. Number 5. I am using the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis in this video. Number 6. By listening to the introduction, it's going to help you know what's in store for you this week. And then you can go to your sun, moon, and rising signs for more information on what to expect specifically. Number 7. I use both Vedic and Western astrology techniques with what is known as the tropical astrology chart, or, for those who aren't aware, the Western astrology chart. Please explore the placement of your Western or tropical astrology sun, moon, and rising signs using the timestamps for this video. Number 8. Haters and hateful comments will be removed from this video. This is a safe space for everyone who visits here, and like a good bouncer at a nightclub would do, I will eject any haters from this platform. And now here's a final couple of tidbits of information for you about how to use this video. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello everybody and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I have such a treat for you today. Joining me for the Astro Weather Report is Rick DeClemente, all the way from New York, New Jersey? Where exactly?
Near Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, okay. Rick, it is such an honor to have you. Rick has been one of my astrology teachers. He runs a fabulous weekly show called Astrology Unplugged on YouTube. Do check it out and join if you want to learn more astrology and really sink your teeth into some juicy topics. And Rick has also published a fabulous book, The Exquisite ZODIAC. It's brilliant for beginners and it's brilliant for more advanced readers as well, because you'll learn something new about each and every sign and how, as the title suggests, how exquisite the zodiac actually is. So you can get a copy of that. I'll put the link in the description below for those who are interested. But Rick, lovely to have you on board. And today we've got a curly one to explore together, which is why I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it by myself.
A curly one. Well, thank you for having me. It's wonderful to see you again.
Great to have you here. Yeah, we've done a few collabs together before, but never
Yeah, a couple.
never an astro weather report looking at what is unfolding. And we're looking today at some of the astrological weather, as I like to call it, on it'll be the 12th of December in the US and where you are near Pittsburgh, and it'll be the 13th of December over here in Australia. There's a bit of a time difference. But we're looking at Venus-Mars opposition. Would you like to perhaps share your perspective on the Venus-Mars opposition, just generally what that energy means perhaps in people's personal charts and what it might mean for us around this time because of how Venus and Mars interact with each other?
Well, it's a tough one because as I started to do my research, Venus opposite Mars, I found out Pluto's next to Mars, and I found that all three of them are making a T-square to the moon.
I know. I'll draw
So
it on
we
here
got
so people can see.
four planet. There are four planets involved: Venus, Mars, right?
Yep.
T
And
squared
then
to the T
then
squared to the moon,
T squared to the moon, but we've got Venus conjunct with Pluto down here in Aquarius as
right?
well.
Right.
So Mars is at 5 to 6 degrees of Leo,
That's right.
just gone retrograde. So I'll put a little R
Yep.
there. And we have Venus and Pluto down here conjunct at 5 to 6 degrees of Aquarius, and the moon at 5 to 6 degrees of Taurus, all the fixed signs. Now, you're a bit of an expert in T squares, Rick. So I'm really glad to have you for this one to talk to that.
Now
And
this is a real mouthful. When you just start out with Venus and Mars, you find out you can't do it because the Pluto influence is so immense on this, and the moon also. But nevertheless, starting with Venus and Mars, as you know, as most of you know, the Venus is the receptive part of you. It's the yin part of you. It's the part of you that should be open to life and invite life in.
beautiful.
However, the Mars part of you is the go-getter. It's kind of rude, a rude energy actually. Go out and just get what you want. Well, when you put the Venus and Mars opposite each other, what you have is the answer to when Venus and Mars conjuncted.
Right.
What, a year or two ago, when Venus and Mars conjunct. Well, when Venus and Mars conjunct, it can be a very happy, charismatic, wonderfully timed, tactful combination. And then a year later or so, when the Venus and Mars oppose each other, I mean, I don't care what you say about Venus, Mars wants to take charge.
He does.
And Mars
Assertion.
just doesn't understand any other position. And then when you throw Pluto in on it, Pluto really starts to dominate the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what it has to do with us is in our love life, in our social life, not just love life. There's too much attention put on the love life. It's also your social position, how you socialize. Are you receptive? Are you charming? Are you easy to get along with? Or are you not?
And the opposition would give tension to that capacity to
The
be.
opposition means we're going to take a look. We're taking a look now at how these two are in your life. This is what you've been living with. Is this what you want to continue living with?
Yeah.
That's what the opposition states is the question.
Yeah. And
And
Pluto,
that's a tough question.
it is. And Pluto, his involvement with things is usually to intensify everything he touches. So this is like a Venus Mars opposition on steroids, really, isn't it?
Yeah, when you put the Pluto, you broke up on me for a second. Did you say about the Pluto?
Yes, so Pluto, his role is to intensify everything that he comes in contact with in the chart. So
Well,
the usual Venus-Mars opposition is just going to get put on steroids.
exactly. And it's not going to lean towards the Venus either.
No.
It's going to definitely lean towards the Pluto
The
since
Mars.
Scorpio's co-ruler is Mars.
Mm, mm,
So we got a real Martian thing going on, a heavy-handedness. And when you get Pluto and Mars involved in any kind of relationship, you have to be very, very careful because there's a heavy-handedness to it. There's a temptation to just go take what I want because I want it. And
mm.
that's really against all rules that Venus grew up with.
Yeah, so politeness goes out the window then with this,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Really, Venus
it,
gets
cer-
usurped.
it certainly does.
So we might be seeing this playing out, well, scarily enough, in the political arena. Fortunately, your election will be over by that time. Let's not go there.
I don't
But,
want to go there. It's
but
enough being here.
yeah, but in people's personal lives, this might be expressing as perhaps violence or anger and aggression.
Well, there is a great impatience, and the Pluto Mars, even though they're opposite each other, is well known for being heavy-handed, and I'll just roll on over you if I don't get what I want. And
Mm,
that's just an ugly way of doing things.
yeah.
So thank God you put two emotional planets involved with this, with Venus and the Moon here.
Mm,
So what we're seeing here is a tendency inside. We all fight with ourselves, and there comes a time inside that we get really tired of fighting with ourselves.
mm,
And the way you assuage that, the way you get around it is to bring in the love of Venus and bring in the love and openness of the moon. And the
mm,
moon likes to chicken out. It likes to run for cover in every way. The moon is very chicken. Let me just go run somewhere where I'm safe.
mm,
Well, in this case, there's nowhere to run.
mm,
And this is a real blending. You are correct here. This is a blending of the Venus, Mars, and the Pluto and the Moon, all those things. And what I think this really means, what I've been studying here, is it comes down to a real understanding and how is your compassion?
mm.
This is what I'm getting from this. If you got compassion for others and yourself, you're going to do okay. But that's really what's being tested here, is your level of compassion.
I love that. I think that's so important. And our moon here is exalted in Taurus as well, which is great. I hope. I think it's good to have an
Well, it's
exalted moon.
very good. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So for people watching, if you have personal planets in any of the fixed signs around, I would sort of say between maybe 2 degrees to 8 degrees of any of the fixed signs, you'll feel this energy more than somebody who doesn't have anything at those positions. So yeah, we would ordinarily see Venus softening Mars in an interaction, but with the presence of Pluto, that's unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
Often Venus, Mars, and Pluto are connected to our sexuality and sexual desire and so forth. So that can be intensified. I guess deeper passions or intense emotions are likely to be felt by people who've got planets around these degrees at this time. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
The sexuality and all of that's going to get sensuousness is going to get greatly amplified during this. But I think what the moon is saying to us is none of this stuff is going to work. None of this is going to work unless you see it through the eyes of compassion.
Mm,
And
I,
I think we see that in life.
mhm,
We see that in life. I don't care what Pluto says or how much it barks, how heavy it is, unless you ultimately, I mean, there are a lot of people that really think that the moon is the ultimate planet.
mm,
And I can see their point. I don't know if I agree, but ultimately, I think the moon is the planet of compassion and understanding. And you know what it's like when you're with a really good Cancer, when you're with a really good lunar person. They have a wonderful feeling they give off, a wonderful feeling of caring about you and being warm towards you, etc. And it's really the antithesis of Pluto.
yeah. So the square aspect to the moon, so the moon is representing all of this, but what do you like? How would you interpret the square aspect from these planets to the moon? Is that just making it harder to express compassion? Like people are
You may
behaving in
no,
ways that don't endear our compassion, perhaps? Or
in this case, the moon is the release point.
okay.
The moon is the release point. You got uh, Pluto Venus opposite Mars, making the T square over two. Yes, over to the moon. And in this case, the moon is so receptive. And we have already talked about how it's very much an escapist type of planet. First of all, this entire time period is going to be extremely moody.
Good
It's
to
going to
know.
be really, really moody. And I found the best way you deal with moodiness is you let it happen. You
Right.
don't fight it. You let the person or the group of people be moody. But what the moon is saying to me is no matter how you talk about this, no matter what social rules you're trying to use, no matter what your social mores are in your country, you're going to have to deal with this in your own heart.
hmm hmm
You're going to have to deal with it. I am, all of us are in your own heart. And I think this is very telling with the times the way they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, None of this is coincidental though, is it? You know, we are living
Yeah.
in these difficult
Yeah.
times and the buttons are
Yeah.
getting pushed. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
this is where astrology is so powerful for knowing how to deal with this. Okay, we know that the
Yeah.
times are tense and the buttons are getting pushed, but we can focus on our exalted moon in Taurus and practice compassion for all the moodiness that we might have and be displaying
Yeah.
the
You're right.
moodiness of
Yeah.
everyone in our lives. If we're compassionate, there's our release valve, our
Yeah. There's your answer. And
mm,
I was not surprised at all when I looked and saw Pluto. Then I looked and saw the moon. I was not surprised at all. Well, she gave me the homework of Venus opposite Mars, but it never turned out that simple.
no, it never does.
No, it never does. But we all know the answer. I mean, we can't BS ourselves. We all know the answer is love in all cases. It's never simple. And we all know that the Buddhists really know what they're doing, with the love and quietness.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a very big fan of Pluto. I think Pluto gets a really bad rap. I think Pluto is a lot more positive than people think it is. I think it's a lot more altruistic. But Pluto itself, this whole dynamic in these four planets is just saying to me, none of this stuff is going to work unless we open our heart.
I agree. And
That's
it's
what it,
funny that you mentioned the heart because when the New Horizons probe flew past Pluto back in
yeah,
2015,
that
what was on the side of Pluto? A big
was
heart. Yeah.
unbelievable.
As above, so below.
It
It's
was
perfect.
unbelievable to see a moon tattooed to the side of Pluto. It
Beautiful
really
detail.
was. And that's why the zodiac is so exquisite.
Yep. It's so amazing. Do you know that there are no cratorial impacts on Pluto, even though Pluto's moons have craters on them from cratorial impact? But the reason Pluto doesn't have any is that heart is constantly, as it comes close to the sun, it will sort of change and refresh itself because it's ice and it sort of liquefies a bit as it gets warmer closer to the sun and then freezes up again. So any sort of impacts it's had are refreshed and gotten rid of. And to
It kind of morphs.
it does. That heart is a refreshing kind of an energy as Pluto goes out, because it's got this elliptical orbit. At some stages, it's a long way from the sun. Sometimes it's closer, and I just love that symbology. I mean, Pluto is the planet of transformation and renovation and refreshing and renewal.
Oh, man.
And there's the
Oh,
symbology
man.
right there with that heart refreshing itself on the face of Pluto. I mean, it is
That,
gorgeous.
that's just an amazing fact, which I did not know. And
Mm.
I'm not surprised, but once again, we see how brilliant the planets are and we have no idea how it happens. It just continues to do so.
That's it.
Um, but I think that the fact that you are having the Venus Mars in a kind of exaltation going on with Pluto and the Moon is really putting its emphasis. It's really putting its emphasis. It's kind of like a quiet period that says, "Hey, everybody, we're about to put our foot into Aquarius." You know, we all know going into Aquarius. I've been doing a lot of shows on what Pluto did in Capricorn.
Mm.
But we're seeing, thank God that the Pluto in Capricorn age is ending, but thank God that Pluto in Aquarius is coming. And we all know that, thank God, Aquarius has that great idealism, great sense of brotherhood, and that's what we need.
Yeah,
Had enough
absolutely.
of this destruction of institutions in Capricorn. Enough already.
Yeah, yeah. It's time for the
It's coming back
bottom
to
up
us.
equality, I think,
Yes.
Mm.
And that's the beautiful thing about Aquarius. I've often thought, you hear this question, what would you be if you came back in another lifetime? And everybody always picks Sagittarius because they all they all think it'd be so fun and easy. You know, I'm coming as Aquarian.
You're coming back as a great. I've got to ask why. What makes you choose that?
Well, because it just does not have that many inherent problems. It does get flaky. It does get a little bit arguing for the sense of arguing, a little hard-headed, but it's so open to people. It's so tolerant of other people. It's just so real friendship.
Mm,
The real deal, what friendship really is. They're very, very underrated Aquarian people.
yep. Some of the loveliest people I have
Oh, they can
that
just
have
be
influenced my life.
great. Yeah.
Mm. I don't know. I
Now, I'm
think
not,
I'm going to come back as a Pisces again. I've really enjoyed this. Crazy though it's been. I'm like, yeah, I like this Pisces stuff.
you're really asking for trouble now.
I know. Well, your book details that Pisces is one of the most.
I'm an expert on Pisces, and that book used to be called Pisces, the Ultimate Sign. So
Mhm.
I'm a real pro Pisces, but it's really hard to be one, hard to understand it.
I
And
agree.
Pisces people themselves don't understand it. It's a tough sign. I just think Aquarius is just a wonderful sign. It's wonderfully non-ego.
Absolutely.
It's wonderfully selfless.
Yep. I think we're going to really notice this Pluto in Aquarius time because of the tremendous contrast between Capricorn and Aquarius, where one is very top of the hill, hierarchical, the goat climbing to the
Right?
top of the mountain. And Aquarius is like pouring out the water for everyone, the equality and the
Yeah.
bottom up, raising people up. I mean, the chart of China has Aquarius rising at the very degree of the grand conjunction that occurred in 2020, 0 degrees of Aquarius. And
Ah,
love or hate China, they have raised more people up out of poverty over the last 20 to 40 years than any other country. David my husband is a mad keen martial arts guy. And he's had a lot of instructors from China who tell stories about people living in, villages with a communal toilet and dirt floors and what have you that have all been, lifted out of such poverty. There's things I don't like about the Chinese system, of course, but that, to my mind, is so Aquarian, raising people up into a better life. I love it.
yes, and I think that's wonderful. And I do say, even though I am American, I do say that we are the problem to the world. I really believe that. I'll keep my opinions to myself, but I really think that the American way of doing things is really under question now. And and we certainly can't keep up the way we have been doing. And I think the Americans are probably in for the hardest lessons of all of us.
Unfortunately, you could be right, but I do think America has one of the best foundations of any country with
Well,
the
we've got a lot going for got a
Constitution.
lot going for us, yes, at the
Yeah.
same time. So the Venus Mars thing that we're talking about is really like a grad school. We're all being required to go to grad school to really learn how to get along with each other. And what we have learned so far, in my opinion, is we were never really taught that. We were never really taught clearly how to get along with each other. We got these rules from the Bible, and we got these thou shalt not and these thou shalt nots, and but that really doesn't get it. When it comes down to it, and you look around and you see a lot of people that just don't know that they want to be better, but they just don't know how to get along with others in a better way, how to deal with things that you see come right out of Mr. Rogers. You know, somebody hurts your feelings. How do you deal with it? These very simple things.
Don't you think, Rick, that these are the lessons that the nodes in Aries and Libra have been trying to teach us for the last roughly 18 months?
Well, I don't know because I'm not node proficient. I'm not very node knowledgeable. So I watch it and I study it and I have respect for it. But I would say that come to think of it, yes, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, and I noticed that within this chart that we're talking about, we still have the nodes getting to what is nodal final degrees of Libra and Aries. For nodes, they go backwards, so their final degrees are sort of 5, 4, 3, 2, 0, 1, 0.
Well, that's very,
Mm.
that's very heavy. Yeah,
Mm.
that's very heavy. I know you're very much a nodal person.
Yes, I love
Well,
it.
I think you're right. That's what this time is about.
Mm.
It's about, by God, one way or the other, we have to learn to get along with each other.
Yep, yep. It's such
I
an
really think I think that's it. And the moon is being pressurized
Mm.
because that's where the real pressure comes
Yeah,
once you start to change your heart. Is it not? The
absolutely.
moon the moon gets the pressure.
Yeah. So on a personal level, the moon and our emotions and our feelings are of are my needs being met, but also the moon in
Right.
mundane astrology represents the masses as well. So,
That's right.
the ordinary people can be feeling this pressure with from this T square too. So as a collective. But maybe
Well, what you say? Go ahead.
no, I was going to say we should perhaps think about talking about how this might affect each sign. If you're up
Well,
for
I'm ready to do that, but it ain't gonna be easy.
No, we'll, we'll do it together. I need your help and
Yeah,
you need mine.
let's do it together because I got my zodiac set up that way,
Yeah.
and you'll see here. This is Aries. Okay, you have 0 Aries rising.
Mm-hmm. And would in my usual astro weather report, I'd also suggest that it applies to a sun or moon Aries as well. I know in India they like to cast charts from the moon sign as much as the rising sign, and oftentimes if somebody doesn't have a birth time, you can cast a chart from the moon's placement and have a fairly good analysis that can come from that, which is a little
Well, I
different.
think that's fascinating.
Mm,
Yeah. Well, what I did here is I stripped all the planets out. So we're just seeing the Venus. This is calculated for the time when Venus and Mars are exactly opposites from Greenwich, England. Okay.
mm-hmm.
And I'm ready to shift this zodiac once per sign. So if we're looking at this zodiac, this is the chart for upcoming Aries.
Right.
Okay, for the December time period. And I don't know, Kesenya, but I would imagine this interpretation would be good for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
But you do see the Venus Mars, and like I said before, you can't just get a simple Venus Mars tug of war because you put Pluto in the middle, and
Mm,
then you got the T square to the moon. So when the moon gets accentuated in Taurus in the second house, I've gone through a very big revolution myself with the fixed houses. I've gone through tremendous change in my interpretation with all the succeeding houses. This means to me that with the moon involved for Aries, and Aries likes to just, what about me? Take care of things that way. Well, with the moon in Taurus in the second house, this means that Aries is going to have to really tackle the sense of self-worth.
mm,
What is your sense of self-worth? Where did it come from? Are you going to keep operating in that fashion?
excellent. Yeah. I think Aries are going to feel this one particularly profoundly because their ruling planet is Mars. So,
I think so, yes.
yeah, but that's, I mean, and these are really important, valuable lessons.
I think so. So let's go on down through. For Aries, it's going to be about self-worth.
So
Let's go.
not necessarily relating to financial
No,
management.
I think finances are certainly uh, co-relevant, but the second house is really about what do you think? Everything in astrology, I have found out, comes back to self-worth.
Mm-hmm,
All
mm-hmm.
my readings come back to what's your sense of self-worth? And opposite, the eighth house is what's your sense of my self-worth when I join with you? So
Yeah.
it's very complex. Let's go on to Taurus. People will get a better idea how this works.
Mhm.
Here's the Taurus rising. Okay, so now you see the moon moves into the first house with zero Taurus rising. So now we see this continual fight with Venus, Pluto, Mars up and down the midheaven, which is your standing in the world, your
Yeah.
ability to even stand in the world. It comes down to um, how can I can put it this way, see what you think. It comes down to I'm not thinking about Rick and who Rick is. I'm thinking about how Rick feels about himself.
Mm, mm. And I like that you use the word thinking because the moon rules the third house here. So it's very thought driven, and in terms of what that moon is doing. It's all in the mind. The perception that we have about ourselves and our place in the world and our role in out there in society and also within, what do we think our place should be?
I think you're exactly right. But this is a heavy duty one with these cardinal planets up and down the midheaven and the moon rising in the first house.
Mhm.
So again, we see lunar lessons are optimal right now. They're just optimal to get through this tremendous period. And when I'm talking about this tremendous period, I'm going to say it. I'm putting a tremendous amount of focus on Eris because
Right.
Eris is still about the 24th degree of Aries. She's still square to Pluto. And I really think that a big percentage of what's happening in the world is Arisian and the wrong side of Eris. And I think it's a lot of people are mistakenly given too much attention to Pluto when there in fact is Eris. And in fact, you've got Eris squaring Pluto. And I
Mm.
think that's a real big part of it.
She's really
Good
thrown the
morning.
apple into the party, hasn't she?
Yes, she sure did. She sure did, didn't she?
But
Let's
the moon in the rising sign here, is that going to put a lot of focus on compassion to the self? Like we're talking about this moon representing compassion and
yes,
express people having
yes.
compassion for themselves because it's the first house of us.
Well, I like what you said earlier. Cancer and moon people are just obsessed with, what am I getting out of it? Am I being treated okay here? I mean, I hate to say it, but that's how the moon is. The
Mm-hmm.
moon is, what am I getting from this? Am I going to be okay?
Mm.
The moon is obsessed with that question
Yeah.
to the point where um, it can become very unproductive, and
Yeah.
it can become, feel sorry for me and wallowing.
Right.
Um, so the moon is a tough planet.
Mm.
Let's move on to Gemini. Okay, here's Gemini. Now we notice it's going backwards. This time the moon is dumping out in the 12th house, and we see the Mars Pluto moon going on in intellectual houses.
Yeah.
Okay, we see the ninth and the third house. So let me give you a crack at this one.
Hmm. I would suggest there's a need again to focus very heavily on compassion because the moon is in the 12th house of charity and
That's right.
those sort of compassionate works. But um again, where yeah, you mentioned the intellectual and the mind is very strong here. Also with the 12th house, I don't know, it's past lives, it's ancestors, it's the where we've been before. And I think so maybe is a need for compassion for your story and where you've come from if you're a Gemini person. Compassion on yourself regarding the habits you've developed or the behavioral patterns that you're grappling with in your own life that have come from past conditioning and past experiences. Would you interpret it that way?
Yeah, I think that's really, really good. The only thing I would add to this, in addition, is Geminis, whether you like it or not, they just try to solve everything mentally.
Mm.
They just keep it all in the mental framework, trying to figure out how the mind works. And this moon is telling you, we're going to lean you towards intuition.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
love
you
that.
Geminis need to wake up your intuition. You need to quit doubting it and start focusing and developing your own intuition. It's there. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not supposed to, but don't poo-poo it. Don't poo-poo people who are intuitive.
Amen. Yes. And do you think because these are cadent houses that it's possible something might be concluding in the lives of a Gemini to do with this Mars-Venus interaction? Something.
That's a really intriguing, yeah, especially with Pluto involved.
So something.
Yeah, things could definitely be coming to conclusion, but we don't want to scare people
No.
because people just blink their eyes and they get scared of Pluto.
Yeah. But
I
sometimes
think
things
you
can be good. Sometimes we're glad to see things come to an end.
No, you're exactly right. I think you have a marvelous addition there you just made. Yes.
Thank you. Shall we move on to Cancer?
Oh boy, nervously. Yeah, let's nervously go on to Cancer. Okay. Wheel style will go to Cancer. And now it's coming out in the 11th. The battle's going on between the self-worth and the worth I have when I'm with you. Second house, my self-worth. Eighth house, what's my self-worth when I'm with another?
Mm,
And the T-square is going now to Moon in Aquarius. And I think the 11th house is very much the opposition. I think it's really the opposition of Cancer.
mm,
Because Cancer is really about me and my close, small circle. And the 11th house is
yeah.
it's all of us. It's the whole game. More the merrier.
Mm,
So I think this is a tough one
yeah.
for cancers. And I have not had much success talking with cancer clients and get them even interested in the group consciousness. They're
Mm.
just not. They're interested in me and mine and my family.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a real lesson time, isn't it? To have
I
that
think it is,
passion
yeah.
for the
I got a woman, I got a neighbor lady who we were talking one night, we were just BSing, and we were all talking about that mythical question of if I won the lottery, what would I spend my money on?
my favorite question.
Yeah, the favorite Sag question. And,
Or
and
Jupiter in the first house question.
yeah, and she said, I would just want to make sure that my family was okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody else was saying that we're all okay. Let's just make it so that we're all okay, but
Yeah.
not her. She said, no, I want to make sure my family is okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
just kept my mouth shut because I understood where she was coming from.
So do I. I have 3 planets in Cancer. I totally get her perspective. Yeah, totally do. Um, and that's why astrology is so exquisite, isn't it? Because we're all wired differently. And it teaches us, knowing astrology teaches us to have compassion for and respect for the different astrological wirings of other signs and other people. So I think there's going to be some lessons in perhaps compassion for other people here for Cancer
Yeah,
risings.
I think so. And I have thought about this. I'm not going to do it, but I've been tempted to write a sequel to my book, which has got to do with, you know, how come all these signs are so different from each other?
Yeah, that would be a
So I think
great.
I think I'll leave that to one of my shows instead of a book because the book is so arduous, as you know.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, sit back and think about these 12 characters coming to your house. They're all just so different.
The ultimate party, isn't it? The whole lot of
Uh, I'm not sure I would even go.
them. Never a dull moment.
We would certainly need all the Pisces that we can get. Let's move up. Let's move up to keep the peace. Let's move up to, we don't want time. Let's move up to wheel style. Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Cancel that one? No?
Um, okay. Yeah. Wheel style. Here's Leo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at Pluto sitting there on the descendant. Sitting right smack dab on the descendant.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Boy,
this is a toughie, this one, I think.
this one is very vivid. This one is how are you going to deal with your enemies?
Yeah.
How are you going to deal with your enemies? How are you going to deal with people you've not gotten along with? How are you going to deal with people you disagree with? It's a very intense Mars Pluto. Look at that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's going to the moon in the 10th, like you said. And that means compassion for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the tensions that Leos might be feeling might be quite publicized as well. Like if there's any clashes or frustrations, it's going to be out in the open for everybody to see and can affect your reputation, Leo. So the more you can consciously be in compassion, that beautiful moon, the better off you will be, because people are watching you with how you deal with this, I would suggest.
Yeah, this is not going to be an easy one. This is the roughest one I've seen yet
Mhm.
because that Pluto Mars is really, really powerful. And I can't ever see the moon sitting down and agreeing with Mars Pluto. But in this case, I see your point, guys. I can't see the moon saying that,
Yeah.
but the moon is going to have to.
Yeah.
It's going to have to borrow some charm from Venus, I think.
Yeah, bit of humility for Leos wouldn't go straight. I'm a Leo sun, so I can, yeah, we need to tap into that humility.
Yeah, but you don't exhibit any Leo problems. You exhibit very Piscean energy.
Oh, I'm glad.
This is a real tough one, Kesenya.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It is. I think, yeah, like I said, keeping very conscious of how your behavior is affecting other people is really key with this. And you're going to be put under the pressure, Leo, to that it's be in the difficult situations where you're required to really exert a level of self-control, which is not easy when Mars is in your first house retrograde.
Yeah, Mars and Leo, like Donald Trump has.
Oh dear.
Well, I will say that lately I've been noticing when you get a really good Leo, and what I mean about a good Leo is one who has already gotten past needing validating from the outside world. When you get a really good noble Leo who has a lot of um, pride and they've worked hard on themselves, they're proud of themselves. They're really awesome people.
Mm, mm. Yep.
They can really be just awesome, beautiful people. And boy, you don't want to get an incorrect one with Pluto, Mars, and the moon.
Yeah.
This could be a real dictator energy.
Right. So we need to be very conscious of that. It's so interesting to me. I've read that Pluto is exalted in Leo and in full in Aquarius. Now, this is hypothetical. We haven't, I guess, been observing Pluto's characteristics for long enough to sort of be making a definitive about that. But that's one of the theories put forward about where Pluto does well and doesn't do well. So, and it's very interesting, isn't it, to observe that the generations of Pluto in Leo generation, there were so many of them, and generally speaking, they've had an era of time that's been very productive, full of growth, full of advancement materially in the world. It's been a very interesting generation to watch, the Pluto and Leo generation. And now we're coming up to Pluto and Aquarius generation. It's going to be very interesting to see the opposite of what that looks like.
And I've always thought of that Pluto in Leo generation is to borrow a symbol from the Rolling Stones. You know, that symbol of the big red tongue sticking
Yeah.
out. We're going to do what we're going to do. You know, is the baby boomer generation. All right, I'm afraid to even try this one, Ksenia, but this is the one. This is the one sign that I continually get myself wrapped up in circles with, and that's a sign of Virgo.
Oh, I know,
That's
totally.
a tough, that's a tough sign. Here you go.
It is. It's a tough sign.
12th house, 6th house. Serving everybody. Because your philosophy, because what this tells me is typical Virgo. Because you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
Because you're doing what you're supposed to do. Because you're doing what you should do. That's Virgo.
Mm, very much so. And
Following the laws.
to their own detriment sometimes. So,
Oh, yes. It's a tough sign to be.
yeah.
Tough sign. I have a lot of admiration for them because they care so much. And when Liza and I were writing the book, we tore up the Virgo chapter. When it was all done, I was unpleased with it. And we replaced the Virgo chapter with sign based on two principles, which was caring and purity.
Yep. Yep.
And we felt much better about that chapter once we started looking at Virgos in the non-perfectionistic way. But
Yeah.
that's what Virgos really are. They're about caring and they're about purity.
Yeah. I've
It's
read,
a tough sign to be.
well, I've read in the shamanic astrology tradition by Daniel Giamario that the Virgo sign is representative in ancient times of the priestess That's why they're serving all the
Makes
time.
sense.
But
Makes
also,
sense.
what goes along with this priestess energy is the purity energy as well, as you
Right,
said. So
right,
it's actually a beautiful combination. And it's interesting that probably the two most maligned signs in the horoscope are Scorpio and Virgo. Um,
yeah.
they really cop a bad rap. But like you've just said, if we can focus on the serving and the purity, becomes a beautiful sign rather than the perfectionist, nitpicky, all those other words that are more negative with Virgo. So they're the priestess or the priest, I guess. Oh, the priest is actually
Well,
more
it
Sagittarius.
reminds me about the book I read, A Life Story of Leonard Cohen, the Virgo poet, and how he had this tremendous sense of service to others, and spent the last several years of his life in an ashram
Oh.
with his Buddhist guru, and just service, purify, purify, purify. It was just a marvelous book if anybody is ever interested.
Well, it's wonderful you mentioned their creativity, like the poetic side, because Virgo's a phenomenally creative energy.
Yeah, and they don't think they are. They won't let themselves do anything, but
Mm.
they are. You're right.
Yeah, but creative with a useful purpose. So I know so many graphic designers who are Virgo because they're using their
Mhm.
creativity, but it's going to be for some useful purpose, not just for
Got
the
to be
sake of,
useful. That's right. And boy,
yeah.
they do a great job too.
Mm, mm.
Okay, let's see what's next here. We go to Libra. Well, this ought to be interesting. Now you've got
Yeah.
fifth house, 11th, with the moon in the eighth.
And the ruler of Libra being Venus in there with Pluto in the fifth. So this is actually, I don't mind this, to be honest. I think this is actually quite empowering, to be honest.
Well, I think it's very good, but the problem you have with this is, all Libras, like I said in the book, Libra is the Aries of the second half of the zodiac.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get them to talk about it. But Libras are very, say it or not say it, Libras are quite selfish sign. It just is. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are wonderfully uh, non ego centered. But with this moon in the eighth house, this means you've got to become aware of your real value is when you mix with others.
Mm-hmm.
How is your sense of value when you mix with other people? That's what this eighth house is about.
Mm.
This is not simple.
No, no, that's very
Not
interesting.
simple. Libra people are very much winners. They're very competitive. They're very smart. They just win at the game of life.
Maybe we should all come back as Libras then.
Bye bye. Good. You go ahead. I'm coming back Aquarian.
Okay.
I'm not coming back actually.
No, me either. I'll join you in that one. Let's just stay here
Yeah.
for there was just something else I wanted to mention. With the first house lord here, Rick, being in the fifth house and empowered by Pluto, again, would you see this as being a lucky perhaps time for Libran people?
Well, doesn't everything end up being luck with Libra?
Yes.
I mean, isn't it the luckiest sign of zodiac? They always land on their feet. They
Mm,
just do. And I don't know if it's luck or if it's just the inner charm that they stay glued to,
mm.
but they're just really lucky.
Now,
Yeah.
you have a theory, don't you, that Eris is the ruler of Libra?
No, it's in the book. The new
Uh-huh.
book out on airs. It suggests that. And I disagree with it. I don't, it get the reputation because Eris is so obsessed with fairness and balance. That's why those two got intermixed. But when you get down to the bombastic, almost violent nature of Aries, then it stops being
Mm.
compared with Libra.
Yeah, and from a purely practical point of view, moves too slowly. It moves too slowly to be of
Yeah,
any great
yeah,
bearing
yeah.
upon as a
Well,
ruler.
Libra is a fascinating sign. It
Mm.
really is. Let's go on to the big boy now.
It is. Poor Scorpio. Like, yeah, they're the only fixed sign
Oh
without
boy, here we go again. Up and down the midheaven.
hmm
Woo!
But this
Man.
time, actually, this mightn't be too bad because the moon representing this need for compassion is in the house of others. So Scorpio people might be potentially on the receiving end of compassionate understanding from other people, would you think?
Well, I think that's a marvelous interpretation. I
I hope
certainly
it's
hope
right.
you're right. I
Mm,
certainly hope you're right because that's a very querulous um, Mars opposite Pluto Venus. You know, that's a dangerous energy right there. And when you send all your energy to the moon, who knows how it's going to come out? You
mm,
know, I mean, who knows? But I would certainly agree with you. I think that it's very true for Scorpios who are so obsessed with their relationships and everything being, merging of two people together. That lesson of compassion is absolutely critical here.
hmm And the two rulers of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto, in opposition to each other on the angle, that's just
Oh
tense, isn't
boy.
it? Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
really it's going to be such, I think I'm getting this sense of push-pull internally for Scorpio between again who they are out in the world and how they feel deep down. And we know Scorpios have such an intense emotional life, and that is going to be really sort of stretched like a rubber band, I think, internally for a lot of Scorpio people at this time.
And
They're going to feel
that
this tension.
this sign can handle it.
Yeah.
There's any there's any sign that can handle all
Mm,
this, it's
mm,
them. But this is not going to be easy. This
mhm.
will not be easy. But when did Scorpio ever want anything to be easy?
So, what would you suggest for a Scorpio person to be able to navigate this well? I mean, a lot of Mars, Venus hard aspects, forget the Pluto and the moon here, but would suggest that getting that tension out of the body through some sort of exercise or physicality would
Well,
be
that's a good answer.
Mm,
What I see very clearly is they got to stop BSing themselves. And the number one thing about a Scorpio is, do they like themselves? Are they compassionate towards themselves? If they don't have self-compassion, you can just forget these people. Get away from them. They're
mm,
dangerous.
mm,
If they hate themselves, the number one thing I said about it in the book, if they hate themselves, then get away from them because they're going to hate everybody else.
mm,
But a lot of them get past it. A lot of them can climb to the eagle. They can climb to the heights of some of our most glorious human beings.
mm,
But what they have to remember is that you are not just here for me to conquer.
important.
You're not just here for me to conquer. You are here so that we can merge together. That's a
Beautiful.
big that's a big statement,
Mm,
but it's really true.
very important. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
You look at people, how many people have come to you with a mess of a relationship in their life where they're toiled up with a Scorpio and how trying to get out of it's not that easy.
Yeah, yeah,
It
that's
can
it.
be very difficult. Let's
And
go have some fun with Sagittarius.
yeah, the majority of people I do readings for actually have strong Scorpio in their charts, and I know like they
Is
want
that
that.
right?
Yeah, they want that self-control, I think, or that self-understanding is what a lot of the time I think they're looking for. Mm.
They're very intense people.
Mm.
They're really got a lot of character, and
Mm.
they don't mess around, boy.
No.
Don't mess around.
People.
Let me go on to Sag here. Okay. Let's see where that fun and games ends up.
Mm.
Third house, ninth house.
All the
Keys
cadence
go to the
houses.
sixth.
Yeah.
So they need to get their sense of service to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a strong characteristic of Sagittarius. It
Mm.
just isn't. That's where they're going to have to win.
Yeah.
If not, they're going to fall into the abyss of that 12th house, I think.
Right. And what do you mean by the abyss of the 12th house?
Well, the abyss of the 12th house is where you lose yourself, but not in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
12, the real 12th house is you lose yourself in a good way.
Yeah.
You do it consciously and you surrender to God. The other way is where you just flat out lose yourself
Yeah.
and there's nobody left there anymore. You can
Mm.
see that in some Sages. Some Sages you're with and there's nobody left. They giggle and have fun and all that, but there's no real self there.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
I find it to be true.
Yeah. I must admit, I find because it's a mutable sign, there's actually a lot of polarity in Sagittarius energy. I find, you've got the myth of the centaur, which, I mean, if you take
Yeah,
Chiron as an example, he was the epitome of the wise and, generous giving, knowledge giving kind of energy. But then the bottom level vibration of the centaur is debaucherous. And more than ever,
that's it.
like
That's
people
it.
say, people say Pisces is about alcoholism and drug addiction and blah blah blah, but I found it much more in the Sagittarius energy,
It's definitely a Sag thing. That's correct.
in that low
Yeah,
vibrational.
yeah, when the low vibration wins out, that's
Mm,
correct.
mm,
And it often does in Sag
yeah,
because they don't want to face responsibility. They want everything to be fun,
mm,
and it's not always easy.
no. So that
Um,
might be coming to the fore here, as you said, that fall into the 12th house abyss. Mm.
right, and that's why I think the sixth is so important
Yeah,
to pick up that sense of serving others.
yeah,
You know, the Virgos really do care about others. It's serving others. So many of them go into nursing.
right. Yeah. So
Hey,
that's Virgo, and Sagittarius would benefit from taking on that mindset at this time, wouldn't they? From how can I help? How can I heal? How can I fix
that's
situations?
exactly right.
Mm.
We're having fun now. Last three. Capricorn.
This is you, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Let me look
How's
before I
it?
agree. Before I agree to anything. Second house, eighth house.
This is an axis that I'm always intrigued by, this one. And I love your description that you've given to it about personal worth and how we are with others. Um, because
Yeah.
like most other things I've read have all been, oh, it's the financial access between
No, no.
resources and other people's resources. So,
No, no, it's been wrong. It's been wrong. I've had a tremendous revolution with second house, eighth house in the past 5 years or so. It's all about that. It's all about your worth, your sense of worth. What am I going to allow you? And am I going to allow Kesenya to affect my sense of self-worth?
mm,
Am I going to or not? It can be dangerous.
mhm,
But it's the sense of self-worth that you get by combining with another.
mm. And so then that feeds into the idea that when you're talking about the material axis of your resources, someone else's resources,
Right.
all the basis for it, the foundation for it is how worthy do you feel of the
Exactly,
resources that you've
exactly.
got? Yeah.
Exactly. You know, as an astrologer, what do you do at all times with every client? Number one, you deal with their self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you deal with a client is a sense of self-worth. Did they get messed up somewhere? Did people around them not have any self-worth, etc.?
Because that
It's a
impacts
tough,
their ability to have joy in life and attract the things they
yeah.
want, and everything else comes back to that foundation.
It all comes back to that.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. And I like this chart actually
yeah.
because it's talking about its answer is up in the 11th house. And to me, the 11th house answers are always wonderful because they're always an Aquarian. Let's get the group together, let's have victory through the group. And Aquarians, they just love it when you give them that answer.
So, for a Capricorn person, the reason it's the 11th house is because that's the house opposite the moon.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that final fixed
That's right.
sign is represented by Scorpio there in the 11th house. That balances everything out.
Yeah, I don't feel this Capricorn one here is too tough compared to some of the others.
I
Let's
think
finish.
I think before we just go on to the last two, that the Pluto Venus in the second house, I mean, the second house sits under the first house of you. So it's supporting who you are, like quite literally the second house. And Pluto, I think here with Venus might be revolutionizing Capricorn people's sense of self-worth and self-value through this
I
process.
think that's very good because I know Capricorns have a tough time with self-worth.
Mm,
They just do. Capricorn and Virgo both. They just have a tough time. Where'd you get the permission to give yourself that self-worth? Where'd that come from? You
mm.
know, it's not a natural thing for Capricorn or Virgo.
Is
And
that
for some
because they both have air signs in the second house?
I don't know why
Their
it is. It's
self-worth
just
is very dependent on others, being that it's an air sign?
no, I think it's because self-worth is dependent on working hard. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta work hard to
Yeah,
deserve it.
yeah. That makes
You
sense.
gotta work your ass off to deserve it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it should be that hard.
No.
I can't tell you, I can't tell you how many Virgos I work with, and they want me to give them permission to go on vacation.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they do.
Oh,
I work
no.
totally the most charts I ever see are Virgo women. And they
Mm.
want me, without a doubt, they want me to tell them it's okay for you to take a break. You've worked hard and you deserve it. And
Oh,
they have to get permission from outside to go do it. They're getting better at it. They're getting better because of the long stay of Neptune through Pisces.
right. Good. Good. That's what we want. We Pisces people know how to take holidays. Take a leaf out of our book.
I bet you do, with a little bit of Leo sprinkled in there. Okay, wheel style. We're going to Aquarius. There we go again. You take this one,
Yeah.
dear.
Well, I want to ask you a question on this. Like, I find Aquarius one of the most difficult signs to understand, which is probably why I'll let you come back as an Aquarius and I'll do Pisces again. But I think the reason is the two rulers, Uranus and Saturn, are such contrasting planets. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
oh,
true.
to me, it's
That's true.
confusing having the two of them. And I wondered what your thoughts are. When you work with this, do you work with Uranus as the ruling planet or Saturn as the ruling planet?
Well, I actually I actually do not find Aquarius that hard to figure out. I've worked a lot with it.
Good. Then you can tell me.
But well, I'm going to try. But 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 the issue of double rulership is a tough one, and it goes back through antiquity. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that there are Saturnian types of Aquarians, and there are definitely Uranian types.
Mm,
I deal with almost all the Aquarians as if they're really Uranian.
right.
I love Uranus, even though it can be a pain in the butt. But I think Aquarians are very appreciative to be married to to be married to Uranus. I think they really are.
Yeah.
And I have a hunch here, Kesenya. I think that through time, you're going to see that marriage of Saturn with Aquarius start to fade away.
Right. And more Uranus predominant.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
And Prometheus.
Prometheus? Do you want
Is that the one?
to?
With Aquarius, Prometheus.
Is Prometheus an asteroid? Like what? I don't know.
What is the one that Tarnas talks about?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. There are a lot of people who think that Uranus never should have been assigned to Aquarius, that it should have been Prometheus all along. So you have to give it some thought. Read what Richard Tarnas has to say about that.
Is this in
But
Cosmos and Psyche?
oh yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I haven't read that. I'll check
Precise,
it out.
precisely where you'll find it. Right. But I don't think Aquarius is that hard to understand. I think they want what's best for everybody. They really want what's best for themselves. They do have an itchy trigger finger when it comes to leaving somebody. They just up and leave with no warning at all, which can be upsetting. Um, but I think that they're really good, straightforward people. They love their friends and they really do love them.
Mm. And so with what's going on here, uh,
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
mm, I'm
Boy.
I'm trying to figure out how this might be playing out. You mentioned an itchy trigger finger, which was a fantastic metaphor. I think a lot of I'm seeing a lot of inner turmoil going on here, potentially. Maybe not, maybe about relationships. It's on the
I
relationship
think you're
axis.
right. You're right.
Yeah, just feeling like they're ready to pull that trigger that you mentioned. Maybe in a romantic relationship, or could be any other relationship. This relationship axis of first house, seventh house speaks to clients and audience and business partners and all those sorts of relational.
Well, they have a tremendous fear of being captured. They
Right.
have a tremendous fear of getting uh, shackles around their ankles. The
Mm,
tremendous fear of this. It's unreasonable. The fear is so strong, and
mm,
that's where the hesitancy and the always ready to leave and split comes from. But you got to project this moon up to the 10th house here to its opening, and this is once again. You can't just be friends with people. You can't just be friends with people. You got to open your heart.
beautiful. Yeah.
And I think a lot of Aquarians really do have open hearts, but they are skittish emotionally. They're skittish. They're ready to leave. They're
Mm-hmm.
ready to get out of it. And I think that's the one great lesson they still have left to learn before Pisces.
Yeah. So that's, I think, that's where the focal point of this is, isn't it? That need
Yes,
to
it is.
open up, to
Yes, it is.
really go deep and open up their heart.
That's exactly right. But I
Beautiful.
think they're a wonderful sign. I mean, look what Lincoln did for our country. Look what FDR did for our country. They really do think about the masses. They think
Mm.
about one of us. They're the least of our problems.
Yeah, we certainly need another Lincoln at the helm, don't we, at this
We
time?
sure do. And
Mm.
a couple more FDRs.
Yep. Yep.
You ready for the last one?
I'm ready.
Well, since you are one, you go ahead and take it from there.
Oh, patiently waiting till last. We
Always last sign. That's right.
yeah, that's right. We're pretty cool with that. Again, we've got this axis of service, and yeah, I'm seeing, yeah. I'm seeing big, again, transformations of the past for a lot of Pisces here. A lot of turning around past habits. Yeah, because Venus is the eighth house lord for a Pisces rising person. Also the third house lord. Venus is ruling the moon, actually. But in the case of the eighth house lord in the 12th, when you've got a malefic house lord in a malefic house, this is using the Vedic system of malefic houses, it cancels out the negativity. So I think that a lot of there's going to be some deep psychological freeing and dissolving of past life stuff that goes on here. Because if, I should quantify that, if a Pisces person is being compassionate and serving and helping and healing and fixing, and if they're doing that, then there's a lot of liberation, I think, available to a Pisces person with that axis of helping the world with Mars in the sixth house and healing the past, which is in the 12th house.
I think that's well put. Yeah. I like what you said. The only thing I'd add to it is I think that the moon in the third house, and I've noticed this with Pisces, they want to use other people's minds. They don't want to take ownership of what they think. They
Mm.
want to say, well, dad sent me here. Well, mom sent me here. Well, it was my uncle's idea to do this. Well, it was my brother's idea to do this. This tells me very clearly that they need to start taking ownership of their own thoughts.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of Pisces won't do it. They are escape artists, just like Gemini. They just
Mm.
are.
Mm.
They
Mm.
are escape artists.
It's that
And I
mutable
think
sign, like a fish wriggling off. We'll never let you catch him.
yeah, that's true. And I think that a lot of it is because they've been brought up in so many ways to not have faith in themselves. And
Mm.
of the Pisces I know are all really good-hearted people, and they really should have much more faith and belief in themselves.
I agree. And from my own personal experience, brought up to put faith in everything outside of yourself, in the
Right.
religion,
That's right. That's
in
right.
the community that you're in, or whatever it happens to be. And
That's right.
I think this is very, very valuable. I have goosebumps actually as you're saying this. Yeah, yeah. To
I think
believe
we
in
have
yourself.
we have uncovered a lot of 12 very interesting
Mm,
stages here by
yeah.
doing this exercise. I think we really are 12 for 12.
Yeah, yeah, really powerful actually. So I'm seeing a lot of transformation for all signs coming out of this. Um, and I think I love the way we've been able to focus on the positive. Like, yes, it's a tense energy and it's a difficult
Yeah,
energy, but if we're serving, if we're showing compassion, if we're living in love for self and others, it's the
yeah.
answer. It's the answer all the time, but especially in this particular chart with this combination.
And this is coming to you right before Christmas.
Yes, exactly. Perfect timing for Christmas. So, a lot of this energy, like Pluto is retrograding, obviously, and it will retrograde back into Cancer right through until I think it's March, actually. So, we're going to be covering, like, going over
Did you
this.
say did you say Pluto is going to retrograde into Cancer?
No, no, no. Mars is, sorry, I might have used the wrong term.
Oh,
Mars will retrograde.
Mars.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, Mars.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're going
yeah,
to
yeah.
be, this is Mars is going to go backwards and then he's going to turn direct in March, I think it is, and go forwards across this 5 to 6 degree point again. And that will get another activation, I think, of this energy that we're working on now in March, April, when he crosses, probably actually it's going to be more like May when he crosses that point again. And we'll get another reactivation of all these themes when Mars comes across that. Because when Mars is going backwards, he's going over old territory and readdressing things.
Right, right.
So, whatever is happening now, guys, as a result of these energies, it's something that you will readdress or grow from or see an outcome from in around May, when Mars is back at 5 degrees of.
I see, yes. Now, what is it that we can tell your viewers in general as to why this whole lesson has been brought to us and brought to the surface for now? Why now this kind of dynamic?
Mm. Well, I think it all comes down to this Pluto at 0 degrees. This is part of the lessons for the new age we're moving into. This is like Pluto moving into Aquarius is another step in the ladder of moving into the age of Aquarius and leaving behind the age of Pisces. And because Pluto's involved in this particular dynamic, it's all part of that energy of moving into an age of greater brotherly love, greater equality, all the Aquarian themes that we've been talking about here. And to do that, we need to shed the old and embrace the new. And exactly what you've said in the beginning, to embrace love, to embrace self-worth and compassion. This is part of where we're heading, I think. How would you interpret it?
Well, I agree completely. I think it's excellent. The only thing I would add to it is I think that one of the real clear messages of this exercise is we cannot depend on the government to do it for us, or the school to do it for us, or our friends to do it for us, or our church to do it for us, especially the church. We have to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And I also think that what we saw here is that we have the capacity to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, what we're offering, do you want to stop share for a second? This, I think, is doing this exercise allows us to see what others are going through. Like if we've watched this video in its entirety and we've seen,
Right.
well, this is what Taurus is going through and this is what Virgo, then we have compassion and can support and uplift one another as we go through this period of change and soul evolution together. It's actually quite exciting.
I think it's very exciting. I think you're precisely right. We dug up some stuff. We sure dug up some stuff tonight.
We have. It's been wonderful. Rick, thank you so much for your time and all the research you've done here and those wonderful charts you presented. It's been, as always, so fun to chat and to learn from you. I look forward to
I
having you.
enjoy working with you very much.
Same. I look forward to having you back on the channel again at sometime very soon. And
Yeah, let's do it again. And good
yeah,
luck. I've met a lot of people who've come to me through you, and
yeah.
they're Kesenyites, and they're all really good people. And it's been a real pleasure. And I thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you. Until next time, and Merry Christmas to you and Liza for when this video goes up.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And I'll get this copy from you soon.
That'd be lovely. Okay.